Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Building Bigger Lives podcast. As we do each and every week, Kathryn Peterson and I look forward to welcoming you, our audience, into another episode where we invite a guest to join us, an opportunity to unpack a little bit about not just their story, but maybe some of the motivations behind that story that help that person lead in ways in which we hope you're going to be interested in and we think you can learn a little bit from. And today is no exception. We're bringing our friend Mike Newmann in from Southern Oregon. He'll be sharing a few things with us in a moment. But before we get to Mike's story, Kathryn, as always, it is great to see you. Thanks for being here, as we are every Wednesday.
Excited for today and to spend some time with our guest.
All right, absolutely. Let's do this, Mike. I want to bring our audience up to speed. You and I have several things in common. You know, we're both strong men of faith. We both love our families. We both love baseball. But you know, one thing is for dang sure, man. You are cooking on all burners right now, and it is really great to see that. I was really excited when you wanted to be a part of this week's recording, and I'm excited to hear your story. Mike, please say hello to our audience. We're sure glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. Yeah, as you said, Michael, it's been a wild journey for me over the last few years to get to where I'm at. But we've known each other for a minute, and it's great to meet Kathryn and to be a part of this. So I'm excited to have a conversation.
Good. Well, our audience is going to be curious about some things, and they're going to want to know, you know, who is this person that you guys have decided to feature today? And I've always found that there are a couple ways to approach that. I mean, so a couple things they need to know in current reality is you're leading a team down in Southern Oregon, but you're really creating a movement down there. You're doing some really exciting things. Obviously, you've made a switch of platforms within the last year or so, but you're really leveraging that platform in some unique ways. Give the audience a little bit of an overview of where you and your team are operating today. Tell us about the Newman Group.
Yeah. Myself, I've been in the business for coming up on 20 years, and I've been with the same company for pretty much the extent of my entire career, which is rather rare, as we know. A lot of times people are bouncing around from mortgage company to mortgage company. That was not me, very loyal person, and I was very happy. But some things changed and shifted a bit, and I felt the pull and made a move last November to CMG Home Loans, and gosh, it went from being a really great move for certain reasons, a lot of reasons, to being a really great move for lots more reasons. And so that's kind of created a reinvigoration of my passion for what I do every day. And so that's been snowballing a little bit in regards to how production looks in seemingly a very, some say, one of the toughest markets we've had. We're gaining some really great momentum, not just me and the Newman Group, but also my branch in general. So it's been fun and really lean into planning and strategizing with clients, which I've done the extent of my career. But some of the programs that I have access to, and one in particular has really just broadened my just my offerings to my people and what I'm able to do and help them create financial freedom and really control over something that we've just never had. It's I don't know, it's just but a shot in my arm, that's for sure. And I'm just fired up and having fun.
So, Mike, I've learned over many interviews that these things don't typically happen on accident, right? You have a journey that gets you to that point. So it sounds like a lot of what you do is the leadership, whether that be for your clients, your team. So kind of talk through your leadership journey a little bit so that we can hear a little bit more about how you got to this point.
Yeah. Gosh, where do I even start? I think, leaders are something that you just kind of, I mean, you can kind of make a leader, but I feel like for most of the part, it's something that you are kind of born with that desire. And so I've always been a leader. In my sports background, I was always took that leadership role, and so that's flowed over into my career. And for years, I was leading, but I wasn't leading with a title. Not that title means anything, but eventually it got to a point where so there was a change in leadership internally with our branch, and that change was me kind of taking the helm in title, although I kind of was already with my tasks and what I was doing. But yeah, so it's been an evolution of leadership in a way that's I've just again always been a leader, but it's gotten stronger and stronger as I've had people like Michael that I've coached with for years, and others, Todd Duncan, and different areas that I've really leaned into that have helped me create the team and really the machine that I've had through the years to be able to originate at high levels and serve clients to the magnitude that we're able to. So I don't know if I'm answering your question real great, but yeah, leadership has always been something that's been in my makeup, and it's really evolved over time into where we're at now. And now, again, with the market over the last few years that went from 2020, 2021, where we're all tripled our business, and then it seemingly the light switch flipped off, and we had a major retraction, and learned through my management and leadership the hard stuff of laying people off, and the different things, really kind of family members. I create a culture that is one of family in the office, and so that was a hard time. But now we're back in a rebuild, where we're filling up this office again, and so my leadership has gone from just my team to really a branch. I haven't had a branch with other high producers, and I do now, and that's been fun. It's been a little bit of a learning curve because I was kind of the high producer and didn't share that limelight, but now I'm sharing it, and it's actually there was some rough waters to begin with, and then it's smoothed out now, and it's pretty cool.
As I reflect on some of the knowledge I have of that journey, I want to go back a little bit. I want to look back at the young man, maybe even the boy, the child growing up, who at some point, if that leadership that was born within him is being cultivated, it's being influenced by different people along the way, family members, youth coaches, teachers, people that are part of the journey that you've been on. When, as a young person, did you find yourself being separated from others as, hey, Mike, you make the call, or hey, Mike, what do you think? Hey, Mike, we're going to follow you. When did that start to happen? And who were some of those influencers in your life that maybe started making that impression on you as a young man developing his leadership skills?
Yeah, I think it was probably in my athletic career, and in high school. I had the blessing of a high school coach that believed in me a lot, and we had a love-hate relationship through as competitive as I was and he was too, through my high school years. But he always believed in me, and saw the leader in me, and gave me a kind of a father type of a role that maybe I wasn't getting through my own father. And so that was a big influence, confidence wise and leadership wise. As I went and pursued my collegiate baseball career, my first college coach down in Riverside, California, was and still is to this day very instrumental, and it was in a different way. And it was one that obviously a lot of times when we get to college, things change a little bit, especially when you're the high school hero and you get into the you're a big fish in a small pond, and it changes real fast. And I was in a poor me state, I'll call it. And Dennis was my college coach. He pretty much called me out and told me I won't use the choice words because he was very good at using those, but basically told me that these are the cards you've been dealt, and deal with it. And I'll never forget, he walked all the way out to the outfield to basically just say those words. And again, there were some choice words in there, it was pretty firm and strong. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And from that point on, I didn't play the poor me card, and I refused to ever do that. And so that was extremely instrumental in my path forward. And by the way, both of those coaches are still active roles in my life. I talked to both of those coaches, my high school coach and that particular college coach, to this day. And Dennis, my college coach, has been, extremely instrumental in my son now, who's followed in my footsteps, his collegiate baseball career. So yeah, so those are kind of some of the people. Also, I would be remiss to not mention Mary, that I've worked with all these years. She hired me basically off the streets and offered me a job in the mortgage business, and we've been together for my entire career. And without her mentorship and belief, unwavering belief in me, I don't think there'd be any way I'd be where I'm at today. So.
Kathryn, when I listen to Mike's story, I'm immediately drawn by a couple of things that stand out. There's a grit, there's a tenacity, there's a fight, there's some version uh, of like he described it. You know, he's born with this. What are some of the things that you see? Because I know you have a different leadership style, and yet you get to watch lots of other leaders in your queue. What are some of the things that our audience might be able to apply from Mike's story that you know are inherently woven in that fabric and yet have to be developed, have to be honed, have to be highlighted, or maybe even, as Mike said, drawn out? What are some of the things that you see so far?
Yeah, so something I want people to notice is sometimes we need those people in our life that call us out, right? That might say, "Hey, I don't care if you're intimidating. I don't care if, whatever. I'm going to call you out and say, "Hey, you've got to stop being poor me.
Mm.
You've got to step up to the plate and hit the next ball and just get over it." So, I think those are really important people to have in our life, but also those relationships that are really long can be so important because sometimes those are the people that really know us best. So one thing I kind of have a question for you on it, Mike, as far as your journey goes, is what are some of those lessons that you've learned that'll help you be that kind of person for someone else? Because I think that's where, but probably both you and I in our career at this point after 20 years, you start thinking, okay, what can I do to pass this on? So kind of talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's going to tap into my coaching side of me for sure. So, one of the other things that I've done, and Michael shared earlier, that we have this, shared passion of baseball. And so I have coached ever since my playing days stopped. I coached before my oldest, started playing ball. He was our bat boy. I ran a high school program and then continued to coach him as he started. And through that, there's been a lot of mentorship opportunities where I've been able to really, and to this day, breathe into young men and teach some of those aspects of the grit and the dig deeper and the trials. As we in baseball, it's a sport of failure. It's really hard, and you fail way more than you succeed, and it just parallels life so incredibly. And so there's so much nuggets inside, practical nuggets inside of the game of baseball. And so being able to use those, that grit and that not give up. And I mean, I've got stories upon stories of those hard lessons that I'm able to breathe into these boys and really be pretty firm, as my coach was with me at times, where it's like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to blow smoke up your rear end here, bud. Like, that's not going to do you any good. This needs to change, and it needs to change really fast and be really firm. But then at the same time, come along their side and put your arm around them and tell them you love them. And maybe they've never even heard that from their own dad. It's that tough love, but then at the same time, at the end of the day, it's not about baseball. This is about life, and teaching lessons through the game of baseball, because the reality is all young men want to play professional baseball, right? And the reality is very few make it there. But what do you learn along the way? And that's what really matters. So I've been able to use a lot of, I mean, all these, Dennis, that college coach that I've mentioned, he used to just, God, he'd talk and talk and talk and talk. I'll never forget. He was a tobacco chewer, as a lot of baseball guys are, and he'd always have cotton mouth. Okay, and that's where the foam the foam builds in the corner of the mouth and it would come out as he's talking. I mean, that's the kind of detail I remember, but he would talk and he was talking about life lessons and he would just he would I remember him saying, probably most of you guys aren't even listening to what I'm saying. But I don't care if one guy is. One guy is going to take it and one guy is going to run with it and one guy is going to make a difference. And I was that one guy. Venture to say it was a lot more than that because the man has impacted a bunch of people. But so that's what I've taken into my mentorship and leadership, with my athletes, and then of course, my employees and loan officers, and then right to my clients. Everything I do is through the lens of coaching. I'm educating. I'm not trying to sell anything. I don't need to sell anything. It sells itself. I just need to educate and guide people. So that's what I do.
That's really the segue I wanted to go to next, Mike, because I think if I look at all of those applications of those lessons in your life, and I think about where you sit today, you truly have an opportunity to influence people at a practical level in which, like a coach would do with a ball club of young men, you're now able to influence large groups of homeowners who are trying to figure out in their journey how to shift their mindset, maybe the mindset of just, how do I shift my rent payment into a housing payment, to how do I look at my home as a vehicle for net worth? How do I look at the possibility of goals like financial freedom, to where someday I might not even need this mortgage, if that's even possible. And you're getting them to think through these questions. Give our audience a bit of a preview of what excites you about those stories. How do you help people who maybe never thought they could get out of consumer debt, or maybe never thought they could own a home, or maybe never thought they could even transfer wealth to their kids, or any of the number of topics you get to explore with your clients? Tell us about how you've transferred that passion from those lessons in baseball to now as a financial professional, how you're able to share those with clients.
Yeah. Well, I felt, very, for, the extent of my career that it's a fiduciary responsibility as I'm looking at everybody's everything. I mean, let's be honest, they're very vulnerable in front of us lenders, that we get to see everything, the good, bad, and the ugly. And so I felt it my fiduciary responsibility to guide on in all aspects, if they'll allow me to, and some don't, but those that do, it's been really fun to coach them through and to really dream and goal set through and just bring. I've learned, I was a psychology major. So, and it was, of course, an emphasis in sports psychology, and performance enhancement. So that was my degree at UC Davis, where I ended up graduating from. And uh, it's funny to me how you'd think, well, how did you end up in the mortgage business? What's that have to do with psychology? And the funny thing is more and more all the time, I'm realizing the psychological barriers that Americans have with finances is
Yeah.
crazy. And so it's so fun to unlock people's potential. I hate that word because it doesn't mean a whole lot if you don't do anything with it, but try to truly unlock the potential of what they're capable of doing and through their finances. I mean, there's a reason why, the good book talks about money so much. It can be very, very debilitating. And here for the last 20 years, I've helped people get into the largest debt of their life. And I've had conversations with the big guy upstairs a couple different times. Am I bad? Am I a bad person because I'm helping people get into such a big debt? And the resounding answer is no. You're helping create a crazy awesome asset, and you're creating the ability to potentially be financially free. And now through this change in company and opportunity with a new program, now I'm truly able to help guide some people, not everybody, but some people into a loan product that helps them pay off their mortgage in far less than half the time, and also still have access to their equity and what they've been paying down. Because at the end of the day, most of us lenders, we get the phone calls. Hey, Mike, I need to put a kid through school. Hey, Mike, I need to remodel a kitchen. Hey, Mike, I got myself into a bunch of debt. I need to pay it off. All these calls of trying to tap into equity. And I've been able to, now create or enable them to utilize a program that helps them be able to accomplish and control the one thing that most of us have never been able to control before, and that is that large debt that I've helped them get into.
So, one of the things that I want to continue to talk about is you had talked about psychology, and obviously that's so important with everything we do. But what do you do to keep yourself in a good spot? I'm sure you've thought through this a lot with being an athlete and being a coach. So, tell me about kind of what you do and what you input to keep the positivity going for you and your team.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, certainly, I mean that flows into so many different aspects of life. So for me, I'm an early riser. I forced myself to be that way as an athlete. I had to be that way anyway, and so I've continued on that into my life. So I'm an early riser. Also, when my kids were young, that was the only time that I felt like I could take care of myself, work out, and do the things, and not take away from time that I probably should be spending with them outside of work. So yeah, early morning routines. I spend time in the morning, either in the Word or listen to a sermon, reflecting. Sometimes just thinking. It's my favorite time is in the morning. So try. I'm not perfect at it, but try to do gratitudes each morning. Right out of the gates. I heard somebody somewhere said try to name three things that you're grateful for. We're so fortunate, and we have so much to be grateful for, and we need to recognize that. So I try to be consistent about that. So yeah, workout routines is really important, and yeah, just taking care of myself so that I have the energy to breathe into everybody else. Yeah, so just trying to, and I try to not allow myself to be fed with negativity. The older I get, the more I realize how precious time and energy is. And I just really don't. I don't want this to sound bad, but I'm just not real interested in investing time and energy into folks that are really negative all the time. And so I've learned to recognize that and minimize. Not that I'm cutting people out per se, but really minimizing the amount of time I'm allowing negative energy to influence, because it just, yeah, it just drags us down. So I'm really careful about that. So I have that positive to bring to the table.
Those are some really great practical applications. Great question, Kathryn. And I think if we're bringing today's episode into a close, I want to highlight those one more time because when we talked earlier, sometimes we sense that leadership comes from, as you described it, Mike, that some people just think, oh, you got a role or a title, and therefore you've got to lead. But some of that has to come from somewhere deep inside of you. I don't know, as you said, nature versus nurture, the debate of the ages. But I do know this is that somewhere deep inside of each of us, we know in those areas we've been called to lead. Some of us, it's a high focus on self-leadership or family leadership. Others of us are going to have opportunities to lead larger groups of people, whether it's within a team or within an organization. Wherever you've been called to lead, I think where we landed on that question, Kathryn, is, remember to protect your inputs, because those things that influence you, whether it's negative noise, whether it's busyness, whether it's people that want to take shots at other people and bring them down, those things have a compound effect on our leadership capacity. And when we choose to remove those in strategic ways, and I heard you loud and clear, Mike, it's not cutting people out, but just limiting some of the audible access to that. I think that's super powerful. And people frankly overlook the strength of that. They just think, oh well, but that's my sister, I've got to put up with that. Or oh well, that's just, that's a teammate that's really productive, so we just deal with the jerk that he is. Well, consider the cost. And I think you've done a really great job of highlighting the fact that that's a key ingredient to your ability to see the possibilities on the positive side, and then to leverage them and really grow and really accomplish some great things. Really appreciate you sharing some of your stories today. Kathryn, any closing thoughts before we tie out?
No, I would say that you've heard it in other episodes that protecting what we have and protecting our mental space is so big. And also the journey that gets us here is so big. So I'm excited to see what Mike does moving forward. Any closing thoughts for us, Mike, while we've still got you?
Yeah, I just really appreciate the opportunity to come on, and hopefully some nuggets were gained out there, and yeah, it's everybody's journey is different, and that's one of the things that I think we get, especially with this day and age of social media and everything, everybody's highlight reel being thrown in front of our face or kids' face or whatever. We forget that everybody's path is so different, and who are we to, number one, judge somebody else's path, and number two, to think that our path needs to be the same. It's our path. I talked to my son, who's chasing his dreams and in his baseball career, and it's such a struggle for young kids these days to stay out of that mindset of I should, this is where I should be, this is how I should be performing, or what I should be doing at my age, or whatever it is. And it's such a lie. God designed us to be our own unique self, where there's nobody else like us. And to be able to embrace who it is that we are, and be our organic self. And when we are, the passion that exudes, so the more we can protect that and not let the negative voice of this is who you should be, this is how you should be, this is and just limit that, and really embrace who God designed us to be. That's where the magic happens. Like, we've got it all there. We get in our own way, and we let other people influence us. So that's how I'd leave it.
You guys can't see, but Michael's doing a big thumbs up. So that was a good way to end it. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to close out this episode of Building Bigger Lives. Thanks so much for joining Michael and I today, along with Mike Newmann. And you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. So please like and share. Thank you so much for listening today, and we will see you on the next episode of Building Bigger Lives.